Everyone, it's Sunday, June 30th. Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell is our guest this morning. Let's go on the record. In an election cycle with justice in the spotlight, the AG weighs in on where we are and what it means. Big issues, big consequences. Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Welcome to OTR, everyone. I'm Ed Harding, along with News 5's political reporter Sharmin Cecchetти. It's great to have you with us this morning. As you can see at the table with us is the state's Attorney General, Andrea Campbell. It's great to have you here as well. Thanks for joining us.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're already heading into July. Can you believe it? We're already heading into July.
Yes, it's flying by. I hope to take moments to enjoy the summer, but it's, it's all good things.
All good things.
Let's start with the presidential debate. After President Biden's performance on Thursday, as a Democrat, will you call on the president to step out of the race?
Absolutely not. And that's a question for him if he wanted to step aside.
Do you think he's up for it? After that performance?
Absolutely. I want to be crystal clear. It was obviously not his best performance, given the stakes in this election and what's on the table. He's going to have to step it up. He's going to have to bring not only more energy, but just step it up and bring it to the level of and just infusing more enthusiasm. People need to know that this is a critical election. But what's crystal clear to me, if I'm going to continue to deliver for residents in Massachusetts on junk fees, on student loan relief, on access to reproductive health care, on making sure there is no political violence in this country, protecting the rule of law, protecting our democratic institutions. The only partner that's going to help me and every other elected official across this country deliver on those things is President Biden.
Do you think he's helping down ballot Democrats after that performance, though?
I think that's the wrong frame. One, I want to be crystal clear, and I said this to my team this morning. It was difficult to watch that debate because when you know what's at stake, everything having to do with affordability, economics, reproductive health care, the rule of law, our democracy, you need him to bring that energy and to really get folks to not only be excited about this race, but to show up and turn out to vote. So he's going to have to do better going forward. That being said, it does not negate the record of accomplishment that is significant. And again, if we're going to get things done here in Massachusetts on all the things residents say they care about, including everything related to affordability, he is our best partner. He has demonstrated that. The other guy is not.
Well, I want to drill down on that particular point. Is Joe Biden the best one to guide it, for example, as opposed to another Democrat who could? He is.
He is. He absolutely is. And I think we're all talking about the performance not being great.
And not the substance of it. We're talking about the performance.
We're talking about the performance. I mean, obviously, the State of the Union was a different performance. He did a great job. He's going to have to deliver like he did there. But on the substance of the issues, what people want and need in this moment in time. You need access to reproductive health care. These are life and death issues. Everything on affordability. We need more housing. We need junk fees, all those hidden fees in your transactions. He's taking those on. We're working with him on that. Well, you need access to other things that are significant. Access to health care. The only person in this race that is delivering and will continue to deliver on those is President Biden and, of course, Vice President Harris. And one last point that I think is really significant. Democracy and the rule of law, the very things we may take for granted, that is also at play.
All right,
and
well,
the other president
is during the debate
is against that.
Well, former President Trump did shift the blame for the January 6th insurrection. He says if reelected, he will seek to pardon people convicted of storming the Capitol. He claims also he's been unjustly prosecuted by his political opponents. As a sitting attorney general, how do you respond to that?
He has not been unjustly prosecuted. Actually, if you watch all of the indictments and all of the criminal cases, civil cases unfold against him, they're going through a legitimate and credible legal process. And obviously, recently in New York, he was found guilty by his peers. And I would say it's the first time that he's ever been held accountable. I've been reminding folks, let's not forget what he and his father did to block access and discriminate against Black residents who were seeking housing, for example. Never held accountable for that discrimination. The Central Park Five, never held accountable for his involvement in that case and in his all of his behavior directed at those innocent individuals. No accountability there. So this is the first time he's been held accountable by his peers. But most importantly, I want a president who is not under indictment, who has not been found guilty by his peers, who shows up and sacrifices, frankly, every single day because he loves his country, he's passionate about public service, and he wants to deliver for residents, and at the same time, eliminate political violence that people are fearful is going to happen post a Trump election. And we have an example of that. January 6th is an example of that political violence. That man is reelected. We're going right back there. And I want to be crystal clear. He will absolutely implement a national ban on abortion. That is a critical healthcare issue. It's a life and death issue that people should care about. It's bigger than bodily autonomy. Everyone should care about that issue. President Biden is going to deliver for us.
And the next item I'd like to talk about is the Supreme Court, because there have been landmark rulings from the High Court in recent days, including the rejection of the Purdue Pharma opioid settlement. Massachusetts played a major role in that lawsuit. Your predecessor in the AG's office, Maura Healey, was driving behind that. Billions for the fight against opioid addiction. But the Sackler family shielded from civil lawsuits. Did the High Court make the right decision?
Obviously, it's a disappointing result. The office has been at the forefront when it comes to holding folks accountable, including this family, with respect to their role in this opioid crisis that is still plaguing Massachusetts and everyone in this country. And so now we have to just go back to the drawing board and figure out what accountability looks like going forward. The team and I are assessing that. Also, how we get the resources and the monies necessary to bring about more treatment and recovery services for folks who are suffering. So we're at the forefront of that. That's not going to change. It's a setback in many ways, but it also is an opportunity for us to get creative, to roll up our sleeves and do what the office always does, which is solve problems and get things done on behalf of our constituents.
Well, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the High Court also allowed emergency abortions in the state of Idaho in a limited ruling. The abortion pill, mifepristone, still available after the earlier ruling. So after overturning Roe v. Wade, can this be considered? Can we use the word progress? Is this progress?
The case around mifepristone, EMTALA case, there are wins in many ways. So we want to take that. We want to do this work with a sense of joy and hope.
You don't think it's a delay or anything?
We'll see. Well, what I will say is this issue is not going away. It is still a major threat in this country. That presidential election matters here. Who ultimately becomes our president, and it should be Joe Biden, will protect a woman's access to not only to choose, but access to this critical health care. When I say this is life and death, it is. I was asked to chair as the Massachusetts AG, the National Working Group on Reproductive Rights, leading all of our Democratic AGs across the country. We were recently in Texas where a woman shared she was giving birth to her second child, got a diagnosis in week 20 that child was, frankly, if they were born, not going to make it. She had the resources to go to another state, because it was Texas, go to another state to get the critical care that she would need. Another woman, who was a woman of color, did not have the same access to the same resources. She got a similar diagnosis that her daughter, if she was going to give birth to her daughter, would die. This woman had to carry that child full term, give birth to that daughter, hold that daughter in her arms, and watch her daughter die because she could not get access to critical reproductive health care. This is life and death. Joe Biden, Vice President Harris are going to deliver on that. This is an issue that everyone should care about. It's not a woman's issue. It's a family's issue. It's a man's issue. If you are choosing to have a child, whether through IVF or any other tool or means, you should care about this issue, get involved, step up. And I'm really proud of our efforts here in Massachusetts, and we'll continue to show up nationally. But I share that story because it is so relevant, and it often doesn't get the attention it deserves of how critical these issues are.
We do have so much to get to. So you are well known for your work as a Boston City Councilor, former Boston City Councilor as well, in advocating for police reform. People in the state have seen scandal after scandal at the Massachusetts State Police. The lead investigator in the Karen Read case, a state trooper, they watched his testimony where he shared vulgar, offensive texts about Karen Read's health, her body, and her friends. So what are you doing to encourage and enforce change at the state police? What are you doing?
I want to be crystal clear. The conduct by that state trooper in that case is absolutely unacceptable. The commentary was vile. It was just horrific, to say the least. And there's a process, internal affairs.
The governor called it disgusting.
Absolutely disgusting, and more than that. State police have the obligation, of course, to continue to build trust, to maintain that trust. He clearly has broken that by his conduct before and during, of course, this prosecution. And at the end of the day, there's a process within the state police to evaluate and to hold him accountable, and he should absolutely be held accountable. But I want to be clear, too. I also see men and women in uniform every single day. I have a state police unit within my office who work at the higher standards of excellence with integrity, looking to build trust.
This is an agency that has been beset by scandal after the overtime scandal. What needs to change at this point?
I absolutely agree, but I don't want to loop in every single state trooper based on the conduct of this individual or others. So he deserves to be held accountable. Everything related to overtime fraud, hold them accountable. I want to separate a little bit because I do have a unit in my office, and I want to give this unit credit because they work really hard with a standard of excellence and integrity. And when something goes wrong, I will hold anyone accountable. On the larger state police conversation, there is obviously an active conversation with the governor on new leadership, and there's a process now on that. And so I think that will bring about some changes.
What should the governor do?
Well, right now we need to.
Should she appoint someone from outside the agency or appoint someone from inside?
That's not a question really for me, because I'm not in the weeds when it comes to the committee that has been interviewing candidates. I'm not sure where the governor and the team are right now on that. But that permanent role will be critical, because I know if you have an organization and you want to shift culture within an organization, as we've done even at the AG's office, to improve upon it, leadership matters. So that's a critical post. But he should be absolutely held accountable in that case. And anyone else who does anything wrong. There's an expectation that we are public servants, we serve the public, and we do it with integrity and, of course, a way to maintain that trust, and he clearly broke it.
The Attorney General is in the chair with us this morning. We'll stay on the record. We'll be right back.